There are certain movies that I think give us language to help understand and help put some thoughts and some feelings around certain events, certain things that we live through. Most of the time, we don't recognize this until after the fact. So I am amazed that after September 11th, 2001, going back and watching the earlier movie, The Siege, with Denzel Washington, just how prescient that movie was and how much it maybe helped me think about and feel about all of the fallout that happened after September 11th, because the movie had sort of walked you through a fictional, at that time, narrative that maybe gave some words and some shape to emotions. Obviously, after the lockdown in 2020, movies like Outbreak from the early 90s, or the more recent Contagion, which still came out pre-pandemic, were just fascinating to go back and watch and to think about germs and spread and containment and protocol and all of these things. It was good language after the event. I have been thinking a lot, as many of you maybe have as well, just about this divisive spirit that it seems like is going on right now and is certainly growing in ways. And maybe one of the phrases I hear a lot is, I just don't recognize this world anymore. I don't understand. And maybe that's just inevitable. Like, how can we understand the unraveling of things? But one of the movies that has been on my mind recently, specifically to give language to some of these feelings and observations, is the movie First Reformed, which is a 2017, I think, film with Ethan Hawke, where he plays a pastor of a very small congregation of a Reformed church in upstate New York. And he is just a very complicated character living in a very eroding situation. His health is unraveling. We're given hints of things, but no definitives. We learn that by the time we meet him, his marriage has already dissolved because their son entered the military and got shipped off to the Iraq War and died immediately, and they just couldn't survive that. And even his church is in a very precarious place. It is enormously small. Nobody goes there. Nobody seems to really care about the things of the faith anymore. But ironically, just up the road, there is a megachurch that has adopted his church. And that's the only reason his church still remains open, is that megachurch continues to fund them and to help them keep their doors open, because they are sort of a historically significant church. They're more like a museum. They're more like a tourist spot. They even nickname it in a very condescending way. They're the gift shop for the megachurch. So it seems like even this pastor's view of the faith and the church is really in crisis at this time. One of the responsibilities that he's given by the megachurch is to host these counseling sessions and to have these group meetings with young people to help talk about topics of the faith with them. And the more he tries to talk, the more he sees that some of these more archaic ideas that are unabashedly racist or misogynist or just inhumane, keep getting promoted. And as the pastor keeps trying to say, well, there are different ways to see this. And when we read about Jesus, when we try to learn from Jesus and follow Jesus, Jesus maybe teaches us the opposite. And he can see that it's beginning to become a losing battle, that people's opinions and people's old ideologies from the past that maybe we thought we were getting beyond or getting better at are just really resurfacing in a lot of unfortunate ways. So even that seems like a losing battle. But what changes the direction of the entire story is he gets contacted by this young couple who find out that they are pregnant. And they disagree about what to do. The husband wants to have a one-on-one meeting with him because he wants to abort the baby. He doesn't want to bring the baby into this world. So as the pastor sits with him and listens and tries to counsel him, what he finds is the husband's main motivation is this world is terrible. And we are literally killing this world. And he is of the opinion that whereas he might not feel it in his generation, his child's generation is not going to inherit anything livable and anything that has been graciously stewarded and handed down to them. So the father says, I can't in good conscience bring a child into this world. And what we see is the pastor, for the first time, probably in a long time, trying to dig deep into faith and his belief in the world and his belief in God and just try to find some hope. How do you find hope for people who are in deep despair? And of course, the irony is no one knows just how deep of despair the pastor is in as well. And there is implication after this counseling session about what do you do when you do your best and it doesn't necessarily work? What do you do when you offer advice to somebody and you try to give them hope and you can't pull them out of their own despair? What do you do when the best that you have to offer wasn't enough? How do you live with that? How do you move forward from that? What does that continue to do to your own despair? The pastor finds out from the wife that her husband actually was becoming more and more radicalized. As a matter of fact, he had built a suicide vest, a bomb vest that he was going to wear because he was so frustrated with all of the ecological disasters that were happening and corporations that were just allowing it to happen, that his solution that he thought was his only solution is to self and to die others and maybe just stopping a little bit of the disasters going on. And as the pastor sort of reluctantly begins to investigate these thoughts and even investigate some of the claims by this husband, he starts to realize maybe some of these ideas aren't that far off the mark. Maybe there is some truth to this. Maybe there is a lot more going on with this narrative of rich, powerful people in rich, powerful corporations are doing whatever they want, and they're not going to stop because no one can make them stop. As a matter of fact, the pastor also finds out that where this 250th anniversary of his little church is coming up, and the mega church is doing all of this stuff to have this big celebration and to do this renovation. One of the key financial supporters is one of the corporations on this husband's list who have been cited and sued, I believe, several times for their ecological disposal of things in unhealthy ways, and there's really no consequence for them. So when he tries to bring it to the pastor of the megachurch, to their little board, their chair people, it is not met well, and a lot of excuses are made why, maybe this isn't as bad as it looks. Who are we to judge other people? And really, we need the finances. And there are so many items in this pastor's journey where you see so many aspects of society that just seem to mirror, again, not just today, but certainly the last several decades. And regardless of what the issue is, the rich and the powerful who call the shots get a lot of people under them to capitulate, and people eventually start to feel trapped and start to grow in their despair. The pastor had taken this suicide vest from the wife and tried to hide it until he could figure out what to do with it. And the longer the movie goes on, the more you can start to see the pastor rationalizing if maybe he should put on the bomb vest. Even under his vestments, even in a place of worship where people that he believes to be evil might be attending, and perhaps his only way out, the only thing that he can do is the same conclusion that the husband drew, to die himself, but to other people in the process, people that there's no other way to reach, there's no other way to change their mind, there's no other way to change their course. It is just a fascinating grappling with despair and hope. And what do you do when it seems like everything you do doesn't matter? No one is listening. Everyone is making excuses. Everyone is just following the way of power and wealth and keeping the status quo. And even sometimes the people of God, who you would think would stand for other things and would maybe even take the teachings of Jesus a little bit more seriously, they don't always do that. And there are a couple of scenes in here that the movie is told very realistically. In other words, it is filmed in such a way that you believe that these are real people living in real events. That happens throughout the entire movie, except for, I believe, 2 scenes, which are almost fantastical. They pull you out of the realism that the movie has committed itself to and into something a lot more artistic that requires a lot more interpretation. This bothered some people when the movie first came out. And to this day, it leaves it open to a lot of interpretation. The ending, in particular, is left open to a lot of interpretation. And some people don't like that, to be fair. But what I found is it tried to do, I think, what only cinema can do, which is give you a visual experience beyond just the real, to help you feel something different and wrestle in a different way and try to see things that other people are going through in ways that isn't just dialogue or isn't just facial expressions. I believe the deep abiding question is, even in the darkest of times, is there still hope? Do you have to give in to despair? Or is love able to conquer all of the hate and all of the mismanagement of the things that God gives us? The question is asked at least once, it might even be twice in the movie, will God forgive us for what we have done, for what we are doing? And at least once they say, well, who can know the mind of God? It sounds like a cop-out, but you realize that is the answer that comes from a soul intention. When you agree that what is happening is not right, but you also know there's nothing you can do to change it, we really hope for the mercy of God upon us for our own capitulation to just living in a world and allowing the world to continue on as it is, knowing it isn't right. But also trying to figure out why people do what they do, even the most extreme things, and how to view them and how to come alongside them, how to try and present hope, even when we're not even sure that we see any hope. So I think the movie is a sermon, but it's not a sermon about rational didactic teaching. It's more like a parable where you have to deal with even the fantastical moments and say, what does that teach me about the kingdom of God? And what does that teach me about the world that I'm living in? And how am I being called to be different? I hope that you find hope instead of despair. I hope that you see the growing power of love, even if it doesn't make any sense. And I hope that you hear the voice of Jesus calling you to something better.